Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Hello, have a seat. Anything happening in the news today? I don't know. Listen, welcome to the show, everybody. Joining us on the panel, TV host and writer Teddy Wilson is back today.
Hi. Hello. Hello.
Okay, everybody, so it is one of the biggest political turnarounds in Canadian history. Mark Carney has led the Liberal Party to a fourth consecutive term, keeping his job as Prime Minister.
No matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you voted, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada home.
All right, so the Conservatives ended up picking up 25 seats, but leader Pierre Poilievre, he actually lost the seat in his own Ottawa area riding. And Jagmeet Singh also lost his seat out in Burnaby, BC. And he has now announced he is stepping down as the leader of the NDP. His party is actually projected to lose its party status. They failed to meet the threshold of 12 seats or more. So, your takeaways, panel, from last night's big election.
I am such a political nerd. Cynthia loves it when I highlight stuff. So many highlights. And so much to talk about. There's so many different places to go. First off, in my opinion, I think a lot of folks might agree that Trump was the single biggest factor in this election, which is fascinating because historically, as we all know in Canada, foreign policy issues, even if that's to do with Canada-U.S. relations, typically doesn't move the needle a lot in terms of voter support, let alone the ultimate outcome of an election. So just the fact that he was such an ominous specter during this campaign is remarkable historically. It'll be fascinating to see what voter turnout is. Advanced polls were the highest ever and like a 20+% increase over the previous election. And then just starting with the Conservatives very quickly. It's interestingly because they didn't win the ultimate prize. They didn't form government, but they got very close. Poilievre lost his riding, as you said, but by every other metric, this was a very successful campaign for them. They increased their share of the seats in the House of Commons. They got more of the popular vote, but obviously by a few very key metrics, it wasn't as successful. So the question is why? And I think, in my opinion, it's because they made everything during this initial ascent before Justin Trudeau resigned. It was all about Justin Trudeau and the carbon tax. Well, Trudeau left. He was the lightning rod, and the carbon tax kind of left. And so what did they have to run on? So everybody else was like, oh, you know, you weren't really talking about his team. You were talking about him, and he's gone.
Was it a bit of a one-trick pony or just one-issue campaign?
I guess a little bit, and I think ultimately some people were turned off by his leadership style and maybe his personality. I've been thinking, what if Erin O'Toole was still the leader? I'm not sure, though, that Erin O'Toole would have ignited people in the way that Poilievre and his style did in these last few years, but then ultimately
I think people either liked him or they were turned off by him.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. Now he won't be the leader of the official opposition in the House of Commons. He'll be the leader of, like they call it, the extra parliamentary Conservative Party. Somebody else will actually sit as the leader of the official opposition from his party in the House. And I think in the next year or so, they'll probably parachute him into a by-election. Fascinating story for the Conservatives because a couple of big losses, but overall they improved their fortunes. So it's such a mixed story.
I mean, they say that Canadian politics are boring. We've said it before. This was not a boring election at all. It was not. It was really, I mean, I will say this, as we know, was a change election. I think the question remains to be seen, like, was this change? We got the same party, but we have a different leader. And as you say, I think 6 months ago, Pierre had this, the Conservatives had this in the bag.
Yes.
So the only two things that changed is that Justin Trudeau left, and of course, the specter of Trump came in. And I think then, so Canadians chose, but they chose, like, really quite close together. This was not a hands-down win. That is very close. So I think that the Conservatives definitely did make some gains. And I think what I can't stop thinking about now is the job that Mark Carney has ahead of him. Because when you look at the map that's out there that was coming up on a lot of news feeds yesterday, there was so much blue, particularly across the western area of this country. And then, you know, like there's pockets of blue also in the east that popped up, which was a change as well. And then a lot of red in the middle. Pretty much exactly what it is. half and half situation. So how do you govern for everyone, including those people who identify as NDP, who actually strategically voted Liberal this time around? How do you make sure that all of their voices are heard? He's got quite a duty ahead of him.
It is pretty wild. When you think back to like December, early January, the Tories were up by like over 20 points. There was talk about the Liberals even retaining party status. Like that was actually a conversation. What a change.
We did not have this on our bingo card.
Do not count your chickens before they hatch. Isn't that the warning? And I think the Conservatives counted their chickens, because I think if you spoke to anybody back in December and said, if there's an election, who do you think is going to win? Everybody would have been like, it's going to be Pierre Poilievre. But then, of course, Donald Trump, as everybody has mentioned, comes in and changes the whole landscape. And Pierre's biggest problem was that he hitched his wagon to the wrong horse. And as soon as everybody got a taste of what Donald Trump is doing to the Americans and internationally to everybody else, we were all like, oh, no, we don't want that here. And that changed the entire election. I was not surprised by the outcome, even though it was close. I think that, you know what, no one would have seen this coming. Absolutely nobody. So to me, it's like, I think the Conservatives have to go back and be like, we have to be stronger about our policies. We cannot just rest on hating somebody and having a campaign about hating Trudeau, because that's what they did for years, like 2 years. You actually have to tell people what you're going to do, because when it comes down to it, that's what matters to people. They want to hear that you're going to take care of them. And I don't think people heard that. They just heard all of this rhetoric.
I mean, at least I will say I was very happy with his concession speech. Like Poilievre was a class act.
Absolutely.
And he said he didn't contest the results, and he didn't add more flame, which when we've seen our leaders, like what Trump has done, is inflame those kinds of divisiveness.
But don't you think he's learned his lesson not to follow in Trump's footsteps?
I hope so, but I hope we all learn that lesson now today.
We are a country divided. Whatever way you actually voted. First of all, can we talk about voter turnout? Because preliminary numbers say 67% voter turnout. I actually thought we were going to hit what some people were predicting, which was 75% voter turnout.
I thought it was going to be a historic high.
I thought it was going to be historic. If 67% holds, that means 33% of y'all didn't vote. And I'm sorry, this was the most consequential election of our lifetime. A third of you have lost your right to complain, as far as I'm concerned. So I would like to turn this on the electorate.
Do you believe in mandatory voting, by the way?
I believe in the opt-out program, meaning we should all be in, and if you don't want to vote, you should have to opt out. I do believe in that, but that's for another conversation. The job that Carney has is monumental. I do believe one of the many reasons why he was so successful is because he's a money guy, he's an economist, right? And he's done big things. His CV is amazing. He's also never been in politics before. Can we talk about how historic it is for this guy? But he also has to come in, and he's never governed before. And he's never governed where there's kind of a left and a right. There is a rural and a city. There is an east and a west. Alberta is not happy today.
No.
Alberta's not happy today. And he's from Alberta.
And he cannot govern in a top-down way, just given the makeup of the House of the legislature now. And I think you're right. He really needs to reach out to the West, especially Alberta and Saskatchewan, because there are a lot of folks there who do really feel alienated. And I mean, you know, we're sitting at a studio here in Toronto, but a lot of them have some really solid points, and there are points based in policy. And I think he really needs to do a very active and really solid job of reaching out to them.
Here's the thing. People are saying, because we're in a minority situation, what is this going to mean? How long is he going to be allowed to govern for before somebody decides we should be trying to bring down the government with another no-confidence vote? On behalf of some of us, maybe most of us, maybe all of us, I don't want to see another election for a while. So please do not do that. Let the man govern. And number two, when I look at the current electorate, young people 18 to 35 overwhelmingly voted Conservative. The boomers and older, they overwhelmingly voted Liberal. And when we take a look at what is next, the next 2 years, the next 4 years, if they let him govern that long, the future of this country is moving right. So I would like to see how this government is going to be nimble to be able to bring everybody under his
and you say the future of the country, especially with young people, it is astounding that the Conservatives got so much support amongst younger voters, very unprecedented in the last 20 years.
They call them young, broke, and unwoke.
Young, broke, there you go.
Not my words, not my words.
But another big what's next is for the NDP, right? Like Jagmeet has resigned as party leader. They've lost their official party status. And, you know, I think of that Semisonic song from the late 90s, Closing Time. Closing Time. Sorry about that. And the next line is every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Obviously, this was a very, very disappointing election for the NDP and for Jagmeet Singh as the leader. He's no longer the leader. But the next line of that song is every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. So this is a chance for them to rebuild, to recalibrate, because the fact that they lost so many, especially working class, blue-collar votes from the NDP went to the Conservatives is wild to me. That is an absolutely astounding strand of this narrative. The fact that they were able to get a lot of, especially unionized voters, to vote Tory blows my mind.
Maybe you should run for leader of the NDP.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Just put it out there.
Thanks. You're too kind to me. Nobody wants this.
Okay, Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos says the movie theater model is outdated. In conversation with Time Magazine's editor-in-chief, he said consumers like to watch movies at home and that most of the country cannot, quote, walk to a multiplex. So do we think that movie theaters are dead or dying?
This guy's ridiculous.
I'm so mad.
Good.
I got excited about politics, but this I get even... I can't believe I share a first name with this joker, with Ted. Unless Ted wants to give me my own series one day, in which case I'm a big fan.
I know you love him.
Love that guy.
You love him.
That guy. He is a Theodore, not an Edward. I looked it up. I can't stand this argument that movie theaters are dead. This is ridiculous. Movies will never, ever be the same if you watch them at home. Even if you have your perfect home theater with your perfect little environment where nothing can disturb you in your little bubble, it's never going to be the same. And if you watch a movie at home, that's great. More power to you. But it's not the same as going to a movie theater. A film is a shared experience.
Yeah.
It's meant to be shared with people around you. And also just from a technical perspective, movies, like plays, to me are fascinating because you're watching somebody's vision or a group of people's visions, writers, directors, producers, and they present it to you. And you sit there and you all experience the same thing. And you can't break up the narrative. Like if you get up to go to the bathroom, you miss stuff. So you're incentivized to sit there, watch the whole thing in the story. The second you break it up, that changes the story because you go out, you think of other things, right? Books, you can do that, and books are a different storytelling medium. But I love that film, you sit there and you're seeing somebody's vision.
Immersive.
Absolutely, and if you're doing it at home and you're looking on your phone or you're getting up to get some Cheetos or have a pee-pee, I'm sorry.
I gotta tell you something.
It changes it.
I haven't been to the theater a whole lot since the pandemic, and I think the pandemic changed the experience for a lot of people and for good reason.
Yes, fair.
The last several times I was in the theater, it was the Taylor Swift Eras tour.
Oh, it was good.
And it was Barbie Mania during the Barbie film.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Try
I went
watching
recently.
that at home. Try watching Barbie at home.
I'll tell you something. The last time I was at a theater, I hated it.
Why?
Why though?
It was
Did somebody
smelly.
Oh, come on.
The floors were sticky.
Oh, Melissa.
If I am going to be in a theater in the dark, I'd rather do that in my pajamas at home in my bed.
See, and I'm the opposite.
So,
I'm the opposite.
thank you, ma'am. You and I can do it
If
together.
my feet aren't
Thank
sticking
you.
to the floor, am I even watching a movie? Like, I'm like, I love that experience. And like you said, I like the community. Listen, we're always talking about the epidemic of loneliness. And here we have a man
Girl,
encouraging
I'm in the
people.
club. I ain't alone.
But a lot of people,
I am in the
I know,
club.
but wait a second. A lot of people are not in the club. A lot of people, when it comes to going to movies, like I just saw Sinners. If you guys haven't seen it, love it. I would not want to see that movie looking at it on my phone or by myself. It was so much more fun to be in a room with a bunch of people. We were all scared. We were all jumping at the same same thing that was happening on the big screen. He also makes a really weird argument that people can't walk to their cinema.
Yeah.
Sir, that's not a deterrent. People are flying to other countries to watch concerts.
Yes.
I don't think we need to have our cinema walking distance in order for us to see a movie. So I'm like, I understand that you're looking out for your business model because it's working out for you right now. But to tell people that they shouldn't also go to the movies, to me, is like, we're not buying it. You can't tell us how to watch
No, he's
stuff.
not saying we don't go to the movies. He's saying the consumer has changed, and that the movie theaters are not changing to meet the moment. He says we've changed.
I don't think that that's
But look at the
necessarily
box office for these top movies. It's still happening.
And what a surprise as somebody whose business is predicated on people not going to the theaters doesn't think the theater experience is a thing anymore.
People
Big
can't-
surprise.
Thank you.
I think, unfortunately, these big conglomerates, like in so many industries, including the one that you're watching right now, they've gobbled gobbled up smaller ma and pop shops, and then the little guy can no longer survive anymore. There was a time when this worked out quite well for everyone. There was like a little theater on every corner. There's still one in my neighborhood, which is a small one from the yesteryear, and it does just fine. I think that the problem is he's looking at it through this lens of these big conglomerations, like that's the only experience that people want to have. And I think that that's not necessarily true. There's room for both. There's room to have your own home experience, depending on the mood that you're in, and these experiences that are universal and together.
And guess what? In life, there's little distractions. There's odd smells. There's your feet. Like, that's life. That's being out in the world and experiencing the world, as opposed to in our own little home fortresses where we have everything. Get out there, experience.
Okay,
I'm out there at the concerts.
All right. Teddy, I'm going to make you the leader of the NDP party and also the president of all moviegoers. Is that?
I'll take the second one.
Okay, all right. So let's go to our next one. Balenciaga's naked shoe. Somehow, these managed to cling to your big toe, but don't try to get away without a pet. No, this is already oohing. All right. I don't even know if I should ask the question, but would you bear it all in these naked shoes? Teddy?
I love them.
You do?
I love them. I think they're great. I'm also notoriously frugal, so I would pay $15 max for these. I don't like spending money on
You're
anything.
only getting a little bit of shoe anyway.
Yeah, you're only getting the one thing. I think it's great. I wear sandals all the time. Actually, it's funny because, like, even in the winter, I keep a pair of sandals in the car because I'll get in the car, take off my shoes and socks, and drive in my sandals.
What?
Get to my destination and then put my shoes back on.
Why?
Because I love wearing sandals. I love having my feet, again, out in the world, experiencing things. So I think these are great. I would get them for $15.
So these are your driving shoes is what you're telling us?
Driving, walking, everywhere, Andrea.
Okay,
Listen, what if we told you they were about $450 US?
I'm out.
Because that's, I think, ish.
I didn't even pay that much for my car.
Yeah, I mean, I could make, my daughter could probably make something for $15 that looked 1,000 times better than this. I'll tell you something.
If Marquesa made them for me, I would probably
1,000%, yeah. Here's the thing. Generally speaking, most of our feet aren't pretty. I don't want to be looking at your feet like that.
Speak for yourself.
I already have trouble with flip-flops and stuff. And speaking of flip-flops, just the same with this shoe. If you had to run for your life, you're dead. I look at these shoes and I'm like, you're gonna lose your shoes if you're trying to run for the bus.
We wear heels.
You know?
We're not doing well here.
I mean, I stopped wearing heels.
No, but if things get real, you have to take those off and you have to run with them in your hands like this away from that person. You're not running.
And also dirt. The streets are disgusting.
Oh,
so,
back to this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know you say the feet are ugly, but like there's whole legions of foot fetishists out there who will disagree with you, and they love these shoes. I just don't understand how it's actually hanging on. And don't you imagine that every step you take is going to do that little fart noise?
Oh!
Yeah. I feel like that's
nothing worse than a fart noise in that shoe. No, I like them. They're fun. I always have my pedicures done, so I'm okay with it. And I have confidence in my feet. They're not the best. Don't zoom in on them. But I would do it. It's fashion. It's fun. I wouldn't spend that kind of money on it because I know 2 years from now I'm not wearing those shoes.
Yeah.
But for funsies, for sure. You know what? Someone's gonna remake those. They're gonna be on some website anytime soon.
It's true. It's true. They're trying to disrupt the what do you call those? Just the regular flip-flop market.
Oh yeah. The thingies with the thingies like that. Yeah. Where that goes in between your toes.
You're driving shoes.
Yeah, you're driving shoes.
You're driving shoes.
All right, so Slate has a series about what couples fight about, and a common issue is the way that someone behaves in public. So, for example, if one person likes to argue with others, the other person, though, is more of a pacifist, not confrontational that way. So does your partner's social style bother you, Sin?
It does not bother me. Jason is an introvert. Like he's an extreme, I would say, kind of introvert. But when he does speak, he usually chooses his words very carefully and thoughtfully, and I'm always kind of inspired by him. I actually aspire to be more like him, but I'm sure I have embarrassed him a number of times. I think we all in the line of work that we do, we're a bit of blabbermouths, and I am definitely that way when I go to events and things like that. If I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of people, I don't like small talk, so I will often like throw a grenade into the conversation.
I've seen her do that.
Like intentional?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like I was once at a wedding. This was in Los Angeles with a bunch of people I didn't know, and I decided I wanted to talk about circumcision. And Jason was so
as you do
upset with me afterwards. But listen. I think overall he loves me. I always keep things.
I think he does.
Yeah,
he does.
He loves me.
Can confirm.
Yeah.
Confirm.
Yeah. And I keep things exciting.
Circumcision. What did the people at the table say?
It's for another discussion.
Okay. Wow. You know, it's really funny because you and Jason are very opposite in many ways. I see where you're similar, obviously, but you're very dissimilar in public situations.
Yes.
And people would think that because of our job, we do like to talk a lot, or we don't like awkward silences. We feel the need to always fill it. And people also expect us to talk a lot because of our job. They'll look at us and say, well, what do you think? I'm like, I share a lot of my opinions enough already. You don't need to hear from me. So people would think that maybe Ryan is more like a Jason. But Ryan is my secret weapon. He is actually way better in social situations than I am.
Really? Yeah.
And people, I think most of my friends.
I think that's true.
I think Ryan is more popular in social situations than I am.
Really? You're really good.
Oh, no, but he's really good. He's really good. And
Total
so
dreamboat, too, I might
Oh,
add.
thanks for that.
As is Jason. These guys
But
are
Ryan,
lookers.
what he has the art of that I don't have is Ryan has humor. I'm not a funny person.
not true.
And Ryan, my daughter tells me every day, Mom, that was not funny.
You're
But
funny.
Ryan has the art of a very well-placed joke that I wish to be able to do that. Sometimes they're inappropriate. I'm sorry, friends.
That's
but
okay. Well,
overall,
look
he's
at
better.
Cynthia. She's talking about it.
She's throwing circumcision off the table.
Right.
That's right.
He's not doing that.
right after the
You and Renee.
Yeah. My partner is fantastic. She's probably watching. Hi. We're really lucky. Like we don't fight a lot. But one of the only things where we're very different is how we comport ourselves when we're out. And it will not shock you to know that if we're out, even at like a romantic dinner for two, I want to engage with everybody around all the time, totally open to it. And she, on the other hand, is a normal person who sometimes just wants to like have a moment. And so we're very, very different in that regard. And it's pretty wild. And we've had the odd kind of headbutt about that, which is interesting. But then outside of that, I think I'm more of an introvert than she is because of what we do for a living, and because when I'm out, and I'm out a lot, as we talked about, going to movies, doing things, I love talking to people, but then I really need my alone time in a way that I don't know if she does. And so I think it's interesting because when we're out, we're different, but then when we're on our own, we need that time differently.
Do you get a talking to before you go out sometimes?
No, but I just know, and like she's like I'm abnormal. She's the normal one in this context, and I know, and like she's cool with it. Or if like somebody ever says, "Hey, are you that little guy from the TV thing?" She's incredibly cool about that, which I'm very thankful for. But no, it's just like, would you want to be out to dinner with your partner? And they're like looking to talk to the next table. It's like, can we just eat our pancakes? You know?
No, listen, I see nothing wrong with that. That's exactly the way my parents were. And when I was younger, I think I was like, Mom, how do you know all these people? Why are you talking to everybody? And now I'm that person. I am the person who's talking to everybody. And I love that. And most times the people that I've dated have been quieter. And I think by design, because I do a lot of talking, I use a lot of words, and they're fine with it. They actually I think we're drawn to each other so that there's no fighting. It's like, listen, they know I'm going to sit there and talk to everybody, get everybody's name, get all the tea, and they just sit back and they just chill. And then they give me their assessment of the table because I'm too busy talking to pick up on all the little energies that are going on.
Good one.
But you know what? I'm also curious. I would like to date someone who's a big extrovert just to see what that dynamic is like, right? Just to see if I'd be like, I think he needs to shut up.
Yeah.
Or if I'd be like, I'm okay with it. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm really curious.
All the extroverts apply.
Yes.
Apply.
Yes.
Teddy.
Scan that QR code. Come on down.
We need that.
Scan it.
Came up with an idea.
All ready, baby.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.